to the show.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Mats Podcast. And this week on the podcast, I know normally I have a lot of Instagram friends that come on here and be my guests, and I enjoy that. I love you guys from Instagram. But sometimes I like to get teammates on here too, because a lot of times it'll be either teammates I've been training with for years, and it's like, yo, let's sit down and just talk. And then there are teammates that, they're brand new. And it's like, oh my God, you seem like a fascinating story. I want to know that story. There are teammates that you train with, you encounter, you see them, and then you disappear, and then you come back, and that teammate has grown, and you want to know so much more about that growth. And that's what we have today. So my guest for this episode is going to be Mr. Kai Rivera. And Kai is one of my teammates who train at Crazy 88s. And I was, like I said, I saw Kai in the beginning. I was like, oh my God, like he loves this. He's in. I disappeared for a while, come back, and Kai's got his blue belt, and Kai's out there helping with the class. I was like, oh my God, like look at this man growing. So proud of him. So Kai, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you feeling?
Hey, good afternoon, Dante. Thanks for having me on. It's an honor to be on here. Feeling awesome, ready to go.
Good. And thank you for making the time. You got a busy schedule with just life, training, competing, and everything. So I appreciate you making the time to sit down with me and just converse. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So I guess really just kind of the get to know you phase, since we're having you on for the first time. What got you into martial arts, jiu-jitsu, anything, and like when did this start for you?
Yeah, so the short answer is I started jiu-jitsu almost 2 years ago. The long answer was that I was born in Okinawa, Japan, to a Japanese mother and an American U.S. Air Force father. And Okinawa, as you may have heard, is the birthplace of Okinawan karate, or karate, right? So like Cobra Kai, Karate Kid, all that stuff is in Okinawa. That's where my family's from. I started doing karate probably when I was 11 years old or so, and trained for a couple of years while I was still living there, and earned a first degree black belt, which is called the Shodan. And it's different because, as some of the listeners might know, jiu-jitsu black belt takes a long time. It's like 10 years plus. In karate, taekwondo, and other martial arts, it's often the sign of the end of the beginner phase, right? So in Okinawan karate, the Shodan is the first degree. It's the end of the beginner stage. It's very similar to blue belt in a way, where you know the fundamentals, you know what you got to do. Now it's time to earn those other degrees and start getting more advanced. So even though I can say I have a black belt in Okinawan karate in the birthplace, it's more of like, hey, I got the fundamentals. I can handle myself in striking, but by no means am I like a super duper expert. So to sum it up, karate and traditional martial arts have been in my life since I was a little baby. And when I moved over to the States post-COVID, I wanted to find a way to get back in the martial arts. And Crazy 88 Severna Park was right up the road. So I dropped in for a no-gi class, and I signed up for a year, like right after, like the night of. And you might have been there, Dante. You might have been there on the first class, or maybe a couple of the first sessions. So I do remember you from the very beginning. And so you may have seen me as a fresh trial white belt.
Yeah, I remember you coming in like at least the first week, and I remember, you can see you're trying to get your footing, you're trying to figure it out. But one of the unique things about you training was that you didn't seem to have like fear or hesitancy. Like I see a lot of first week grapplers come in, and it's really a game of like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to mess up. And it wasn't like you just jumped in and just started going, but it's like if we say, hey, try doing this, you picked it up. You're like, okay, I'll try. Like versus some people like, oh, I can't do that. Like, well, you haven't even tried to do it. Whereas you were like, like tripping is always kind of that early one that people have this weird like they either know how to do it, or their body moves weird and they don't know how to do it, or they want to be the fastest shrimper. And I never felt that with you, in those early stages. Like, and even when I would pop in from time to time, and even seeing on Instagram, just watching your growth and seeing, it's like, I could see those branches starting to, kind of expand and grow. I was like, okay, this guy's in it for the long haul. He's here. Like, he's not just I'm just doing this, for funsies. Like, I want to learn. So good on you,
Yeah.
man.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing is that like some of the things that separates not a casual necessarily, but somebody who does it for lifestyle might be the way they approach training, right? Or
Mhm.
class. So like since I did martial arts since I was a little kid and other traditional sports, I was used to listening to the coaches and being very aware of my body, right? I did that for however many years prior to class. But now that I'm assistant coaching the children, I can see where you're coming from, where it's like some kids got it. They know how to move their body and they're willing to accept feedback or criticism and go for it. Some of the other kids, they might be having an off day, they might have some stuff going on at home. This is like their third or fourth activity. They're going through the motions. And you can see it. So as an adult, uh, coming to class is part of my release. A lot of us have full-time jobs and we go to class for the lifestyle, to hang out with friends, get some training, get choked out a little bit, and have some fun. For the children, it's a little different. The motivations are different. So I can totally see where you can perceive how somebody's doing martial arts. And one of the things, just what I noted was that I do post some things on Instagram, and I do film my matches to show the progression, right? So when I was a white belt, I filmed the tournament matches, and now I can look back and say, wow, that was really bad. But oh, I tried that move. If I had a little bit more practice, it'd be good. So I do it more for record keeping, and sometimes there's a funny moment or a cool moment that you can post, for some clout. But these days, it's more for improvement, and also to share some stupid moments. If I get caught in a crucifix for 5 minutes and I was winning, how do I end up there? I try to make fun of myself a lot.
I think that's an important thing when it comes to social media and just growth in general. We always see the highlights. We always see people doing great. We always see the great things. And every so often, you get someone that will post where they messed up. I just had a friend. He sent me a video. He was at the ADCC trials, and he got murked. And he sent it to me. He was like, "Can you repost this?" I was like, "Oh, um, okay, I will, but are you sure?" He was like, "Yeah, just starting your stories." I think it's important, like you said, to see that growth, to see where you came from, and then when you actually, look at it later on compared to where you are, just see, what you figured out, how you figured it out, and practice makes better. I'm not crazy about that term, practice makes perfect, because you know it, like, I'm not a believer of like nothing's perfect, but you say practice makes perfect, and you got people believing like, if I keep doing this, I'll be perfect. No, you'll get better for sure. I don't know if we'll ever be perfect. We're human, Kai. We're human.
We are.
Uh,
What I was thinking of when you were saying that was that um, the social media part is very, how do you say, mm, it's tricky because it does impact mental health, does impact relationships with people. My goal for social media is to stay connected with people and have a lot of fun, right? That's my main mantra. So when it comes to jujitsu, I was thinking about it kind of like when you talk about practice makes better. I remember when I was a kid, I think everybody's grandma or grandpa did this. Like you'd stand up on the wall and they'd mark your height on the wall or something like that. So for jujitsu, belts and stripes are like that. But sometimes even just looking at technique, you can see one thing a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit taller. And for the bloopers and the fails, I like funny stuff. So I think it takes some sort of personality, some type of craziness to be able to post you at your lowest, not to humiliate yourself, but just to be like, hey, things happen. Sometimes I'm on top, sometimes I'm on bottom. Literally, right, with the positions, but also sometimes with jiu-jitsu you get in these crazy weird positions where there's a butt in the face, or there's a foot in the mouth, or there's something goofy. And I think it's fun to think about how extraordinary is it that we're coming here to willingly suffer, simulate war, and at the end we're not enemies at all. We actually get closer to the people usually, especially if they're teammates, like you and I. So the social media part is tough because we're not perfect, like you said. We're all human, but if we try to just get 1% better, 1% better, then that mantra or that idea of practice makes better will show.
For sure. And just so everybody knows, my wife still marks my daughter's heights every birthday. She marks her height, and it's like my daughter's always excited, like, "Oh, hey, let's see how much taller I get." So, I think the metric of being able to measure your progress is always important. Like Coach Keith once said to me, I'm sure he said it to you, and he said it to everyone. Your progress has to be measurable. You can't just say, if you have a goal, how do you measure that goal and the progress of the goal, getting to the goal. I could say, you know next year I want to um be a better artist. Okay. Is it measurable? Absolutely. And you can watch that progress. And I think with growth and progress, there comes a point where the ego has to be checked, because if you're going back and you're looking at how bad you were at something, it's jarring. It's it's discouraging. But I think it takes a special kind of individual to look at those follies and mess ups and say, okay, how do I get better at this? And when do I start? It's like, can I start right now? I'm looking at this right now. Let me call a friend. They like, meet me at the gym, meet me at the park, meet me somewhere. Like, I want to work on this move. And then there are other times where you get someone that's like, they messed up and they're embarrassed behind. It's like, fuck, I don't want to look at that again. And then I'm not good at that. Like me, invert, not my cup of tea. Like, I invert not by choice. I will do it because I have to do it. But if you say just willingly, all right, we're gonna do some Granbies right now, and I'm gonna say, no, the fuck, I'm not. But in the middle of a roll, sure enough, it'll happen. But those are those things where it's like, I know for me, it's like, man, I don't ever want to work on fucking invert. I don't want to do Granbies. I want to do half Granbies, but it has to be done to get better. Just,
Yeah.
Progress.
You bring an interesting point about a couple of things there about measuring goals. So like the way that I approach jiu-jitsu these days is like, am I doing what I can? And not necessarily what I want to do or have to do, but like, am I doing what I can? So I do training, Monday through Saturday because I'm capable of doing that. I can get off of work, go to class, and then Saturday, wake up early, go to class. And then my body can still handle it. The way that I try to measure it is, okay, am I doing the classes that I can do and should do? And when I'm in there, am I doing what I intended to do? So it's like intention and capability is pretty important to make the practice the best that it can be. An example of that would be if I'm trying to stay on top and practice guard passing in the gi, I have to learn how to break the grips, and I have to be really intentional about that as part of my goal for that day. And then just cardio. I try to not necessarily outpace everyone in terms of speed, but I'm always trying to move. So bottom of side control. If I stop moving in my head, I think, what am I doing here? Got to keep moving. So that's one example of how I think you can measure. Am I doing the 6 days of practice that I can? And then is my intention there? Most days it is. Sometimes it's not. The second thing that was kind of funny was that when we're talking about wanting to do a move, I have a friend, close friend, Muhammad. He's one of our training partners, and he wants to drill so bad that he got some mats, and he's like, guys, let's set a time to just go to a park, put the mat down on the park grass, and we'll do some rolling. And it's awesome to have friends like that who watch tape and want to do drilling outside of class, outside of the drilling that we already do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the last part about the techniques that are tough. Yeah, Granbying and inverting. Uh, I actually ran into a little bit of complications where I recently got stacked, funnily enough, by Muhammad. He's about 170, and we're doing 30-second guard passing drills during our speed drill warm up. So we had already done all the push ups, all the sit ups, all the side to side. Now you got 30 seconds to pass the guy's guard. Okay. I'm on bottom, and he pulls my legs up and goes for the stack. He goes double unders, and then he kind of bends my back a little bit, and I feel not a pop, but kind of a compression. And I'm a small guy. I'm a $128, right? I'm like 5'5", $128, so small guy. Inverting is not really a problem, but when you get a guy who's a lot bigger, 50 extra pounds coming down on the back, it's tough. So how that gets into it is the rest of the week, my back was slightly injured. So I said, Coach Keith, hey, my back is hurting. It's hot to the touch. I'm not sure what to do. He said, drill, maybe not smart, take it easy. When I do any type of flow rolling, I notice when I get to that invert position and I have to move out of there. That's because of my pain at this point. But a lot of other people, that might just be regular every day. You know, some of our athletes, some of our training partners are, you know, in their 30s and their 40s, 50s. One of my training partners is Chris Tran's father. He's about mid 70s. And I drill with him Tuesday, Thursdays. And so the body, its capability changes over the years. And even temporarily, I'm starting to feel, okay, here are some moves that I do all the time that I can't do. Time to change the jiu-jitsu. And I think it's interesting that everybody's got different toolboxes they can use. Some of the tools are fun. Flexibility is fun until you can't use it anymore. That's when the technique has to come in. So those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think, you know, when it comes to the ideal of getting the reps in where you can and just training with intent, I think, you know, that's a very, very, very important thing is the intent. I used to come into class and I would have to remind myself as I'm, you know, stepping onto the mat, drill with purpose. You know, everything that I do has to have purpose. Otherwise, what am I doing? There'd be some days like I'm just there just to kind of be there. Like I'm there to learn, but you know, I'm not like really like aiming at anything. Then there are other days where I come in, it's like, look, I know I need to work on, you know, I get stuck, you know, in bottom side control, you know, like very many people. I need to work on not even getting there. Don't even, you know, so the intent of the day is to, you know, just make sure you keep moving, don't get there. So it's like, I think it's always important to know when you're going into training, you know, what your purpose is for that day, you know, what you're looking to achieve. And, you know, overall, it's going to make you a better martial artist, just outright.
Yeah. That
Hey,
purpose thing is tough for a lot of people who uh, just kind of want to go with the flow. And I guess the pros and cons of going with the flow is that one, it's almost always just fun. If you're enjoying
mhm.
it, then you're just coming and having a new thing pop up. It's like, oh my gosh, we're doing Del Hilo. Oh my goodness, we're doing bread cutters. We're doing this, that. It can be overwhelming, but it's usually just fun because like, oh, okay, we're doing this today. Cool. The con of going with the flow is that there's no focus and direction. So I almost think of life like you gotta have some sort of direction and like a GPS. I use GPS all the time,
Mhm.
and even if I know where I'm going, mostly so that I can know what time am I going to get there. Is there any traffic right now? What's going to happen?
Same here.
You know what I mean? And that gives me direction. And the cool thing is, if I have direction and I'm responsible for getting there whatever time, I can pick the detours that I want to do. So knowing where I need to go, knowing where how I can get there, I have the freedom. So same with jujitsu. If I know my goal is to be able to pass the guard, I can choose whether I want to go inside or go outside or do some crazy, stupid stuff. Hopefully not. And going with the flow is almost like being in a passenger of the car and you're not driving it. It's like, okay, coach is having us do this today. All right, here's what's going on. But I like to be more active and more, how do you say, in control. So I want to be in the driver's seat. I want to know where we're going. And sometimes when things happen during a scramble, those transitionary periods, that's when there's a detour that, and you don't know how you're going to get there. The internet goes like, oh crap, I got to wing it. I got to figure out it's rainy and there's a lot of people on the freeway and I can't see, what's going to happen? So going with the flow is cool. It'll take a little bit longer to learn all the stuff, but it's mostly fun. So I chose to study, but also try to have as much fun as possible. And having a purpose is almost like a mini game for yourself. It's like, okay, how fast am I going to pass this guy's guard? That's a mini game. Am I going to use this one pass that coach was teaching us last week? And then the competition is the biggest game, because that's where the stakes are highest and people are watching, and everything that GPS is almost off. And now you're just on the freeway and it's like you're on the racetrack. Now you got to beat this other guy who's trying to get the same objective as you. So just have fun is what I try to do.
With you competing, yeah, I know that's our gym sometimes get this reputation of being a competition gym. Like, and there are times where I feel like that's just not completely accurate. We have a lot of competitors for sure, but I don't think our gym is primarily like you have to compete. If you don't compete, blah blah blah. Because I know of some gyms that are kind of that way, unfortunately. But for you with competing, when you came into this, did you, even though you're a student of just the body and martial arts, coming into this, did you think to yourself, I'm just going to come in here, kind of really take this in, and was there any intent to compete like in your mind early on, or did you just come in thinking, let's just see where it goes?
Yeah, I think, to be completely honest, I joined the gym because I've heard so many benefits of jiu-jitsu. Of course, listening to Joe Rogan and having a couple of rock stars in the media that do jiu-jitsu. Some of my favorite bands, they were practitioners. So when I joined the gym, it was mostly to get out of a depressive funk that I was in during COVID. 2020, 2021, it was kind of crazy for everybody. I was especially going through a hard time, and I needed some way to make some friends and build a local community that I can have some fun in, because I recently moved from Hawaii. And I did not immediately think of competing. I didn't know that there was a competitive element to jiu-jitsu. I just thought it was a martial art that people did, just like traditional martial arts. I never really thought of competing. It was just learn how to control your body and study, these things and gain wisdom from it. So in the first, I don't know, 3 months, I was going 6 days a week, training some Muay Thai for striking, and then doing some jiu-jitsu for grappling. And I would do the gi and the no gi. I just wanted to be out of the house, really, because I was working from home and I didn't have friends. So I needed to build some sort of community. And it was almost impossible to do that in person when the lockdowns were happening and I didn't really know where to go. So I didn't know I didn't know that competing was an option. Coach Ronnie asked, "Hey, you ever thought about competing?" And I think that was the same day that I was like, hey, maybe I should compete. So the stars aligned on the same day. I was thinking about it, and the coach asked. And then I signed up for a Grappling Industries tournament in July of 2021. And then I had maybe 4 or 5 weeks to prepare for that. And I had a goal. I had the intention, right? So when I came to class, I knew, okay, I wanted to figure out what the heck the rules were. Actually, no. When I was 2 months wipeout, I had no idea what the rules were. I just had to figure out how to do nothing. I had no idea what was going on out there. I swear, it was the rules weren't even a thing when I was a 2 month wipeout. I just had to figure out how to shrimp, how to move my body, and how to sweep. Maybe. In any case, competing at Crazy 88 for Crazy 88. Is a small section. I don't know what the metric is. It might be 10% of the student, population, or maybe even fewer. There are a lot of competitors, but if you think about the amount of people in the advanced class, or maybe even in the basic class, that actually compete, there might be a handful of people. So actually, the coaches went over this with us a month or two ago before the World Championships. They said, hey, we got 3 locations, but out of all those locations, we really only have a room of 30, maybe 40 total from the 3 locations that are fighting and training to compete. And even smaller section of that is actively competing, and then smaller section of that is adult, or something like that. So out of the entire class population, Dante, there were 42 students in our no-gi class last week at Severna Park, and they split it. Half was intermediate class, phase belts and up, and then the other half was pure white belts. I think maybe 24 of them were just pure white belts. Maybe they had a couple of stripes, but just learning no-gi. The other half was intermediate, another 20. And maybe out of that 20, there might have been like 6 that compete. So 6 out of 42, that's like 1/7. I don't know what that percentage is, but it's not everybody. So to wrap it all up, I didn't know that competing was an option. I had an inclination to do it, and then I went to train for the next however many weeks, and I got sucked right in. I kept doing it. And now that I'm competing more and doing regional tournaments, it's the most fun that I have. It's the preparation and the training, and usually the biggest relief is when the fights are over, because all the adrenaline is building up, all the anxiety and all the fighting and the actual pain. The biggest pleasure that I get from competing is the improvement, and then finally that rest. Like, oh my goodness, it's done. But then you got to go to class on Monday, and then it all starts again. So enjoying the process and just getting into that groove. It's not for everybody, and everybody doesn't do it, but the fact that we're trying to improve helps bring everybody up in the room. So the white belts and blue belts are crazy 88, and purple belts, brown belts, black belts, they're at a much higher level, because the way that we judge ourselves is not necessarily by competition results per se, but it's linked to how well that we can perform and who can perform within the group. If you can compare the people who go 2 days a week, these guys get to train with people like us who train 6 days a week. So they get really good training partners by going with the competitors full speed, and out of the gyms, if nobody competes, then it's just slower pace. It'd be like learning how to drive on the back roads. You just kind of cruise. But then once you get in the freeway, you go in the middle of the city, you got to learn how to parallel park, got to go left, right, up, down, rainy, snowy, whatever. That's when you learn how to drive. And competition is where you learn how to fight.
I like that comparison there with the driving, because that is very, very spot on. I think with our gym, one of the things that I enjoy about it in this aspect of it is I'm one of the guys that come in maybe once or twice a week. If I'm feeling squirrely, and coming in there, I've never ever felt this sense of like, I come in and I'm not welcome. If I haven't been there in a month and I show back up, it's open arms, and that's always. And I think that's jujitsu in general, but I'm speaking biased because it's our gym, so I can say what I want. But I come in and it's like, oh shit, Dante, like Severna Park. I haven't trained at Severna Park in, I want to say, over a year, up until when I recently showed back up for Coach Mike's no-gi class. And I'm sitting there, I see Ronnie, he gives me the head nod. Mike comes over and he's like, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you made it in tonight. I will be back. I had a groin injury back in April, and it started getting better, and then I showed up to no gi. But when we get people coming back to the gym, it's always a welcome invite. And I think one of the currencies that we have there at the gym too, it's not about your win-loss record in competition. It's about how you are as a person, as a training partner. If you have a willingness to, learn, and let's say you and I are rolling. I'm much heavier than you. I probably got you by 100 pounds, about 90. And you're like, look, I'm getting ready for a competition. as a good training partner, it's like, all right, well, what do you need to work on? What do you need from me to help you get better? And honestly, there might not be a whole hell of a lot just because of the size difference, but there's some small, things we could drill and stuff like that. But that's, I think, one of the things that kind of gives us the value at our gym as teammates is like you're willing to help someone else get better. I don't actively compete, but I know that you do. So I'm going to do what I can to help you get better, and because I've had, training partners, like I trained with Baird before, before he got injured. I can't remember which comp, but he was like, "You want to work on anything?" And I was like, "Dude, you're about to compete. Like whatever you need to do, you let me know." And somehow ended up with his foot in my mouth. And then I was kind of like, "Oh, I made a mistake. like, like I should have been drilling something." But
That's
but
funny.
yeah, it's all family there. It's all love, and I think that's again just some of the most important stuff about a jiu-jitsu gym in itself, specifically ours, is that being a good teammate and never making anyone feel like they don't belong, because for a lot of us that is the only place that we feel like we belong, and the second that you're made to feel like you don't belong, that's when we run into a problem as to why you're there and what they're doing or what they're saying to you. So when you first went in to compete and you got out there on those mats, not even like the lead up to it, but like just once you got out there on the mat to compete, what was that like for you? Like what was going through your head?
I'll tell you, Dante, I didn't warm up. There's so many things that I resonate with what you just said about the team and preparing the competition. But to make it short, I had no idea what the heck I was doing. I bowed in, went onto the mat, and I was fresh, cold. Once I tried to get my grips, I had no idea what was going on. I think the dude put me in the X guard, and I had no idea what the heck that was when I was like a 3-month white belt. And I probably got choked out in like 80 seconds, like a little over a minute. I got swept and then went to side control, and then he got my collar and then did something, and I tapped. And I remember he got his hand raised, and I was like, man, that was pretty awesome. So in terms of the body, I made the mistake of not warming up, and then I didn't know how to do jiu-jitsu. I still don't really know how to do jiu-jitsu too much, but the fighting was just so much craziness. And after that, I remember, like they always say, your forearms are just destroyed because the grips, you don't know how to do the grips. And I think I got submitted 3 times that first competition. I lost to the choke in the first one. I got hit with an arm bar in the second one. And then the third one, I actually won with a Bustamante sweep, a girl sweep, and I won by 2 points. The fourth one, I got arm barred on the same arm, and so it hurt, and I scream tapped on that one. So I left with the 1-3 record, but I was happy that I got the sweep on the guy and won the match. And afterwards, I thought, all right, what's next? So the white belt competitions are crazy because little things that we don't know or that they don't know to do. Hey, bring a change of underwear, bring some water, bring some headphones so you can pump yourself up, bring some snacks, warm up a lot before you break a sweat before you get on the mat, and bring a change of clothes. These types of things. All the preparation you just kind of learn by doing, and everybody has their own journeys. But at the gym itself, like you were talking about the practice before a competition and working with people like Bear Bailey or Mark Ramos, the environment really is a team. So Crazy 88 as a team with 3 different locations. We have 3 locations, but we're all under the Crazy 88 umbrella, under Julius Park and Keith Sabula and Vanessa Griffin, everybody. The cool part about that is at these in-house tournaments, like we just had one for the kids in May, and kids from 3 different locations came to fight and support the world championships, for a charity event. And now in July, I believe it's Saturday, July 8th, we're going to be having an adult white belt in-house tournament where the the adult white belts and the phase belts are going to be fighting to fundraise money for the kids pan championship, for the children and their parents. They have to fly over to Florida, and it's a lot more expensive because the parents are coming too, right? So you're basically tripling the cost for a competitor for flights and hotels. And so all the white belts, or a lot of white belts, I hope, from 3 different locations are going to come in and just duke it out white belt style. And the crazy part, well, the fun part is that they're going to be blue belt super fights. And I believe it'll be gi for IBJJF rules, no gi ADCC rules. And so I've already been challenged by one of my female teammates, which is hilarious, by Arisha Akram. So I'll be fighting her probably in gi, and we'll make it a fun show. And it's for the kids. So to wrap that all up, the competition part is the results come from everybody that trains, whether it's the people that come 1 or 2 times a week, like you might do, or 6 days a week, like me or my training partner, Christian Thomas, right? And so there are people that have all these different types of, how do you say, they're capable of training more. But we still need the people who come in once a week, twice a week. And they help us out. And we help them out too, because they can learn the pace of someone who's trying to go fast. And about us being a team, we got all those locations. We're all under Crazy 88, fighting for a cause. And even just these little in-house tournaments show that we're not doing it just for one individual, but we're doing it for everybody and helping out.
Absolutely. I think, when it comes to just this ideal of the team in the 3 different gyms, you think like, oh, well, everyone's separate. Everyone does their own thing. And it's like, well, no, we have our own things, but we're still uniform under umbrella where it comes to this, family feel. Like you said, we're doing this for the kids. We're making it fun. It's not like, okay, you got challenges. Not like, oh, really? You challenging me? Turn this into like a serious thing. It's like, nah, go have some fun with it. And I think that's what jiu-jitsu, should be. I have some people get in my comments sometimes, if I post a video and it's a fun video, someone having fun, and people are like, oh, that didn't work, or, oh, that's so stupid. It's like, dude, just have fun. Why are you on the internet? Like, why are you here? Like, why are you doing anything if you're not trying to have fun? Like, that's, I think, one thing that, and I could sense it in you and in myself. I'm kind of similar in, like, there's not a lot of stress, just like there's stress, but it's like you don't let the stress control you. A big part of that is having fun. You look for the things to have fun with. And like, unfortunately, I make jokes at some of the most inopportune times, and it's not that I'm trying to be a jerk. It's just sometimes, there's an opportunity. It's observations, like, oh my god, there's a joke just waiting to happen. But that's part of that, having fun and not being stressed. So, my hat's, off to you, just with your journey and just everything that you've done, because like you're saying, you were working from home, and it's like, I have no sense of community right now. Like, that depression starts to set in, and it's like, that's where stress starts to like rip you apart. And then you're like, man, I need to figure this out. What do I do? You found something, and I think the thing to having found, jujitsu and really, turn things around, is, it's instrumental in the whole relieving of the stress, whether it be, hey, I'm gonna go fight my friends today, or we used to have open mat at Severna Park right before COVID, and maybe a little after we opened back up on Sunday mornings. I would open the gym up, and it was really just, for me, just the drill. like sure, you guys can come along too, but I'm just here to drill over and over and over and over. That was that stress reliever. And then, every so often you get someone and like, hey, let's just roll for an hour and a half or 2 hours. But it's like, it's all in, like, in any of it, there's like, you're looking to have fun with it. You're looking to minimize the stress. You're looking to keep yourself sane in this crazy world. Kai, the world is crazy. We need to keep our shit together. Where you're
Yeah.
at now, with getting promoted to blue belt and training 6 days a week, you know, I know you mentioned earlier, having the back injury. Like, have you had any other kind of nagging injuries that, with training so much, or have you been taking care of yourself pretty well to stay away from things like that?
Yeah, I mean, there are on every part of my body. There's all kinds of things. So how do I want to do this? To frame the to frame this part of the discussion, I'm a pretty young dude. I'm about 25, buck 28, 5'5", and I've been doing sports since I was like 5 years old. So I'm pretty strong for my size. I don't regularly do strength and conditioning, but I have decent cardio and I'm able to move a lot of weight for my body size, especially because I'm always training with everybody bigger than me. All the people that I train against with are taller than me for sure. They might be heavier than me as well. So I have a pretty good core from my body. Now for injuries, usually they happen because of things moving when they shouldn't, right? Like a finger or or things being moved in ways they shouldn't, like an ankle or a foot or a knee. So the most recent injuries that I've had are little boo boos. Would be like my middle back by being stacked, and even some competition things. Like each of the competitions that I've had this year, I've had something happen. So my first blue belt competition in January, I think I got hit with a foot lock that went sideways, so my ankle and my knee was hurting for maybe a week. In Dallas, I got armbarred really hard, but I escaped, and it was actually a triangle armbar, and I was able to escape. And so my right elbow it was kind of wrecked for maybe a month or two. Now I don't really feel it that much. In this last competition we did last week, somehow my right knee got injured. Maybe I was getting knee barred and no gi or something like that. But the biggest injuries that I've had, I believe, would be my my right ring finger uh, got sprained pretty hard doing warm ups after a competition. I won gold in IBJF Atlanta, and then I came the next day, and then I sprained my finger during a warm up where we were doing side to side outside passing drills. My finger went inside my partner's gi pant, and I moved, but my finger didn't. And I heard a, and I couldn't really move it. And I went to urgent care. They said it wasn't broken, but it was sprained. I had to buddy tape it for like a year. It was like, and now I can finally move it back left and right without any pain. So stupid little injuries in the joints. I had cauliflower ear for the first time last year, and I got it drained and stitched up. And I remember that week was so annoying because this is a little weird, but like when my ear got cauliflower, it was in the canal. So like the inside of the closest part to the hole swelled up like a balloon. So that
Yeah.
meant that the canal was a little bit smaller. So water got trapped in there. When I would take a shower or something. So I had my ear was hurting because of the cauliflower, but then there was like water in my ear, and then I actually got a little bit sick. I caught a cold after that. At the same time, when they fix up the ear, they drain and they put stitches in. It's very hard to sleep when because I sleep on my sides, and I like sleeping on my right side. So that's the ear that was stitched up. So I had not a lot of sleep and nagging things in my head. But to sum it up, I try to get 7.5 hours of sleep to rest. I'm starting to do ice if I need to on certain joints, which I didn't do before. I'm also trying to, after class, I'm typically seen on the side of the mat, like with my feet up on the wall, trying to stretch out, my groin or extend, my back a little bit, and just a little bit of TLC on my body after class, and then trying to get enough sleep. I've stopped drinking caffeine for about 4 months, and I'm less anxious, and I'm able to sleep better. Dante, I swear, I was getting like 9 hours of sleep, but I'd wake up feeling exhausted. So now that I'm able to actually rest, even with less sleep, like 6 or 7.5 hours of sleep, I'm trying to do it on that 90 minute sleep cycle type of thing. I try to game the system a little bit, even on days where I have 6 hours of sleep, I feel okay. I might need to take a little nap, but I don't feel train wreck destroyed like I used to. So
Okay.
trying to have a decent sleep, a little bit of ice, a little bit of stretching, and then just staying in the training helps my body stay up to speed, in shape.
I mean, it sounds like, as your journey is continuing and as you're growing as a martial artist, you're learning along the way. You know, I mean, like I said, you're 25. I mean, you know, you want to make sure, as you're 25 and you're getting older, at some point, that 25-year-old body will become a 30-year-old body. And how you treated it at 25 will play heavily into how it feels when you're 30. I wish I would have known that back then because I wasn't stretching, I wasn't icing, I was just going. And then I come home, take a shower, maybe get on the treadmill, and then play some video games. Like, man, I feel good. I'm gonna go train again. 'Cause at one point, I was a 6 day a week trainer as well at one point, and it didn't nothing phased me mentally about it. Just seemed right. And then one day, it was just like, that doesn't feel good. All right, maybe we'll be 5 days a week. That also doesn't feel good. Maybe we'll be 4 days. Fuck, that hurts too. Now, how about 3 days? And then you go back up to four, thinking, all right, everything's good. And oh shit, maybe it's not. Now we're back down to two. So I'm glad to hear that you have kind of recognized you know the need to take care of your body, especially at a young age, because some of us we figured out too late. I'm 45, so for me, it's like I slept wrong the other night. My back was hurt like a son of a bitch all day, and if I get into the car wrong, my knee gets funky and it swells up. And it's like, damn, dude, like all of this shit's avoidable, or it was avoidable, and it can still be avoided now. But I'm old and cranky, and I yell at kids that run on my front lawn sometimes. I got the ring cam. My cam goes. I'm like, what? And I speak to the cam. Get off my lawn, you kids. And
Yeah,
my daughter's like, Dad, stop yelling at my friends. You're next.
you're
So,
next.
um,
That
but
that is interesting though, because the injuries and whatnot, it's usually little stupid nagging things that pop up, but the I guess the main thing is recognizing that, like you said in the beginning, we're not perfect, so our body's not going to stay in the best condition. And if we think about it like the car analogy, where competition is driving in the rain, the sleet, and the snow, you got to make sure your car is good, make sure your tires are good, make sure your oil's been checked, make sure, well, not the oils, don't check other people's oil in the gym, but make sure everything is good with your car and give the right fuel and sleep, all that stuff. I learned that as we're in the gym, probably because with competition, you got to have peak performance, right? You want to have peak performance. So you do habits that make you have better performance. So you sleep more, or you sleep right, you measure what you're eating and avoid eating bad things. You start implementing things. And then all of a sudden you start talking to other people in the gym, and then they give you some ideas. And then you give them some ideas. And they say, oh, I never tried that before. So interestingly enough, for my back, I injured my lower back and my middle back, and so I asked one of my teammates, Michelle. She has some injuries. I think she has some things going on with her lower back, and so I asked her, "Hey, what have you? I've had this thing going on. What are you doing?" She says, "Oh, you do this, this, and that. You sleep with the pillows underneath your legs. It extends out your back, and you put some ice on it." And I said, "Oh, I've been doing everything that your PT person said not to do. Right? I'm trying to stretch it, trying to put my knees next to my ears. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just crazy." And she said, "No, no, no. It's it's things like that. Conversation between like me, a competitor, and Michelle. She doesn't compete as much, but she was able to give me some ideas that I was then able to give to some other teammates, and now our backs are fine." So it's just interesting where the melting pot of jiu-jitsu is able to help everybody improve and get better. And that's what I love about it. I love Crazy 88 so much.
Absolutely. Same here. And hearing that tidbit on the back, now I'm like, you know what? I was aware of it, but I never ever like I remember the other night laying in bed and thinking, if I put the pillow under my knees, I should be fine. And I was like, but I'm already here and I'm comfortable. So and the thing is, I'm thinking about the comfort at the moment, not think about the discomfort in the morning when I'm waking up. So it's like,
Yeah.
I'll be okay. And I woke up and I was like, motherfucker, why didn't you just do it? And here we are. But yeah, I think jiu-jitsu as a whole is great, for so many different reasons. And our gym in itself, I think is, you know, just a perfect collection of, individuals who compete, who don't compete. And that's just I think the thing is where, people might think our gym is a competition heavy school is like I think competitors are a lot more vocal on social media, so that's what you see versus the ones who aren't. Because I come across a lot of crazy 88 um, grapplers that don't compete, and I'm like, oh, who the hell is this? Like, oh, there's enough, and it's like, oh, yeah, I know you, I know you. But it's like everyone who competes though, it's like I know you. It's like hell, I have a folder for a repost that's specifically titled, Crazy 88, and every so often I'll put a post out from someone at a competition or something, and you know, um, it's kind of a rotating thing though. It's kind of the same people. So again, for the thought of our school being a competition heavy school, it's like, well, really, there's kind of the same like 12 or so people that I have, and not even that many. I don't think it might be eight. People that's like, okay, cool, here we go. I got them set for this. But I love that everyone is helpful to each other. I love that everyone's respectful to each other, and just our coaches in general. I think we have some of the best coaches just in the sense of understanding martial arts, understanding life. I mean, Master Julius, when he was filling in when we were still Ivy League, he filled in for a couple weeks, and he had brought up an analogy about our ranks, and it's like you can be a really really good white belt, and then you will eventually get promoted to blue belt, and then you have to ask yourself a question. As you're a blue belt and you're really really good, do you want to be the best blue belt and just hold that forever, or do you want to move to purple belt? You have to start asking yourself these questions as you go along this journey. It's like, what do you want to do next? Do you want to just stop? Because I know there's always the joke, blue belts quit. Blue belts will quit. As soon as someone gets a blue belt, they're quitting. It's like people quit, period. I know quite a few purple belts who quit. I know a couple of brown belts who quit. You know, know a handful of white belts, like a whole like two handfuls of white belts that have quit. I actually know more blue belts that you know. I know fewer blue belts that have quit actually, but that's the running joke. But the thing is like once we're there at blue belt, as we both are, it's like the question becomes, do you just want to be a really good at that rank and just hang out there, like that guy who graduated high school but he still hangs around the school like that's
Right, right, right.
the old blue belt.
Right, just hanging
So
out there, just reminiscing about the days, right?
it's like, yeah, one time, when I first got my blue belt, I did this, or when I was a white belt, I did this. Is like, and you always want to have those memories, but I think on our journey we should be moving to points where it's like talking about what you're doing now at late in your blue belt stages or early in your purple belt stages, or just growing and fostering a community that appreciates what it has. So
Yeah.
um yeah, so Kai, this has been great. And I got your text. I know there's some other things. I've already made some documents on like, look, I'm gonna have this dude back on. We about to talk some Dragon Ball Z. So I got a few other
Hey.
guests who are big into Dragon Ball Z. I'm always like, yo, I'm gonna have you back on. We're gonna talk because I don't have a whole lot of knowledge on it. So I need the info. Hey, Coach Mahoney, you know, he's big into it. I need to reach out to him. I actually need to just reach out to him in general. He just had, his MMA debut, and
Yep.
fatherhood's upon his life. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
reach out to him like, oh man, like how's it going? Let's talk. Like get him back on
Yeah.
here as well. Um, but
Yeah,
before we get out of here, Kai, do you have any shout outs or mentions that you'd like to drop?
yeah, I'll shout out Coach Danny Mahoney, just who we were talking about. He actually was he's like my jiu-jitsu older brother. Him and Chrissy Mahoney are like, auntie and uncle, you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
they really helped me in my first couple of months during jiu-jitsu, and then, competing. I would be a roommate with Mahoney, and then Chrissy would help me out with a lot of day-to-day things in jiu-jitsu. But it's funny because he and I both love Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, so we're always talking about it. And it's just interesting that he had a couple big milestones, like his first pro MMA fight, and then becoming a father soon. But yeah, for other shout outs, Master Julius, Coach Keith, Christian Thomas is one of my favorite training partners, and then Brandon Timmons, Arisha Akram. We are traveling from all these different locations in Maryland to go to Severna Park, and then all the way up to Owings Mills, and then going to Elkridge. So we are, almost following Coach Keith going to these 3 different locations, and I wouldn't be where I am without those. And then a whole bunch of other people, Coach Ronnie Masquet and Mark and Muhammad, Brandon Epps and Mike Morano, and everybody there. So the big takeaway here is that it really is a team. It takes so many people just to create one person, and that person impacts a bunch of other people, and it's really fun. I'm really happy, even to meet someone like you, Dante. When I still remember rolling with you, we were doing King of the Hill like 2 years ago in a no-gi class, and I remember I saw your blue rash guard, and I had my white rash guard, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. And you said something like, "You got a low center of gravity, you can move fast." I think I got swept anyways, but I still remember, us rolling a handful of times.
Hey man, like I said in the beginning, just seeing you out there, I thought I was like, look, this dude is here. He means business. This isn't just a hobby for him. He's here to learn. He's here to grow and get better. So, one thing I definitely want to say, just a big part of like I said, when I returned to that no-gi class and I saw you, and just you're helping the other guys out there, and I looked, I was like, dude, I'm proud of this dude. Like I got to sit down and talk with him because I just I want to get inside and know about him. Want to know what's going on, and just ultimately again, just want to let you know I'm proud of you, man. I'm happy to see that you're still doing it. I'm happy to see you're helping with the kids now. Even in the no-gi class, I felt bad because I think you were helping someone, and then I kind of chimed in. I was like, oh shit, like let me shut the hell up because here I am, haven't done this in so long, and like you're active, you're like here, so it's like what the hell you're talking about. For all I know, my information might have been way outdated. I was like, hey, yeah, do this, and then I was like, shit. All right, like just like stand back, let Kai do his thing. So I'm happy for you, man, and I'm very, very happy to see your continued growth and progress throughout jiu-jitsu and see where it's going to take you. And we definitely want to have you back on, and just take the training wheels off and let's just like get loose and just start having fun and cracking some jokes.
Yes,
And
sir.
just do the podcast thing. Uh, and for everybody else out there listening, as always, thank you. Do appreciate all the support. I appreciate, just the fact that people listen to this podcast is fucking weird to me. But thank you. I appreciate you. I love you guys all. Um, if you have any questions, concerns, criticisms, always feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on bjj.wiki on Instagram. You can find me on Off the Mats Podcast on Instagram. You can find me at a lot of different places on Instagram. I got like 14 Instagram accounts. Only 10 of them are actively running because Instagram only allows you to do 10 at a time. But I got some other ones, just in case they delete some accounts. I want to give a big shout out to my crew over there at Nerd Rage Radio: Bobby, Chris, Joe, Marilyn, Phil, Ricky Tiki, Raul, uh, all the fellas over there. Thank you for everything. Without them, I wouldn't be doing podcasts. Marilyn Phil is a frequent guest on this podcast, and So You Like Horror, which is my horror movie podcast. He's actually been on quite a bit, so much so that you might think that it's his podcast now. So shout out to those fellas. Thank you for everything. Also want to give a shout out to the podcast I just mentioned, So You Like Horror. So if you like horror movies and things like that, go give it a listen. We've been doing horror through the decades. We're on a bit of a delay with the 80s, but it's coming. But in the meantime, go check out the Evil Dead Rise episode that Marilyn, Phil, and I just recorded. It does get a little distracting because we start talking about a billion different things, but we do bring it back to base and talk about the movie. It's a fun time. It's always a fun time. And another shout out here to my guest, Kai. Thank you for making the time to do this. Thank you for sharing your story and your experience. Like I said, it is fascinating to see just where you came from, in that beginning up to current now. It's like, watching a little brother grow and saying like, you know what, I believe in this dude, and seeing like I was not wrong. I believe in the dude then, and here he is. Thank you, for just everything that you do for our gym, and just being a good dude in general. So big shout out there. And another big shout out here. Last big shout out to our gym, Crazy 88. I don't shout us out enough. Coach Keith, Master Julius, Coach Mike, Coach Ronnie, Coach Mahoney, Coach Epps, all you guys. Thank you for everything you guys do. If you listen and make it this far in the podcast, like that's a family. We go there, and I recently went out to a pro wrestling event with Jeremy, and Jeremy and I, we've only rode together a couple times, but we were at the wrestling event. You would have thought that we were best friends, like me and Mark, just having a good time, cracking jokes and just laughing. So that just shows you, it's like sometimes you don't even be connected with the cast like that, but then it turns out like what we have in common. Oh, we all train. Then you go beyond that and you find out, oh, wait a minute, we're into this too. We're all human. So, big shout out to our gym, and thank you, everyone. You guys keep listening to the show, and we're going to keep making them. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye.
They were with it. Now let me sing a song.